Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Erin. I knit and I crochet, and my channel is full of tutorials or sometimes just a video showing you how I made something. When I'm not knitting and crocheting, my full-time job is a hairstylist, and due to COVID, I was laid off a month and a half ago. So yeah, I've had a lot of time on my hands. So today's project is a pretty big one. Okay, to get into the video, first things first, what a lot of people ask me all the time is where does my inspiration come from? So I have this little notebook where I draw, or I keep like newspaper, magazine clippings. I like to use magazines when I'm looking for inspiration because I find while the internet is a great tool, I love Pinterest, I love Instagram. I find on like a social media type of platform, when you're looking for inspiration, it kind of just feeds you all of what you want, which is good in some cases. But when I'm kind of just like looking for like what's current, what colors are coming in, like what fashion is coming in, I like to use magazines more because that's not just showing me what I already like and what I already want, because the algorithm is just going to give you what you want. So yeah, so like this would be an example of like a color scheme that I like, stuff like that. So for this particular dress, I kind of wanted to be like pretty flowy, like colorful, as you can see here. This is just like a color thing that I really liked. I didn't really use it for this dress, but this one you can see like the sleeves, the poofy sleeves, that was a big inspiration for what I wanted to do on this one. But like you can see here too, like I know this is material and it's a lot more billowy than what I did, but yeah. So then this was my sketch that I drew out. So as you can see, like I long, flowy, and then the sleeves kind of going like that. Okay, so I made this sketch obviously after I picked the colors. To pick the colors, basically I was looking for yarn on the We Are Knitters website, and I knew I needed at least 10 balls of yarn. So I was looking at the bundles, and there's actually a bundle package that it was showing, and it had a picture with these colors. And I really liked those colors, so I looked at the bundle and then I like added a couple and switched it around a little bit, and that's what I ordered. Okay, so for how much yarn you're going to need, I'm 5'8", I weigh 165 pounds, and I wear like a size 6 to 8. And for my like long dress, I had to use, I would say approximately 12 balls of yarn. So I would, if you're going to do a long one, unless you're like very petite and short, I would order 15, a pack of 15 balls of yarn just to be safe. And if you are, if you're doing a shorter version of the dress, you can probably get away with ordering a bundle of 10. That would just be my suggestion. I used We Are Knitters cotton, and I would just suggest doing the same thing. It's the easiest route to go about. And they have like bundles of 10 and bundles of 15, so it makes it super easy.
So when you're choosing colors, you're going to need a base color, and that's what you'll use for your waistline and the top of your dress right here. For a short dress, or if you're ordering 10 balls of yarn, you're going to want to make a 10 color striping pattern. And because you're only using 10 balls of yarn, I'd use the base color in the striping pattern twice. I'd order 2 balls of that one. For a long dress, you can make a 13 or 14 color striping pattern, and then just incorporate the base color less frequently within the pattern. So as you can see here, I have just repeated the same striping pattern 3 times, but it still creates a variation in coloring so that you get like a wider range variation.
So this has elastic in the waistband, And I'll show you how to do it with an elastic, but if you don't have elastic on hand at home, you can also just make like a tie. So we'll show you that way as well. So other materials other than the yarn, the elastic, you'll need a 5mm crochet hook. You'll need a yarn needle because there's a lot of ends to be sewing in, and a little bit that needs to be sewn together. And did I say measuring tape? You'll need a measuring tape. But yeah, that's it. So basically this entire dress, you'll just like work in parts, and I'll show you how to do it. This isn't necessarily a pattern, it's just me showing you what I did, and you can do the exact same steps and you can make the same thing, but based on whatever your body type is or whatever your size is. Yeah, so basically the measurement that you are going to need to take is going to be your waist and your hips, and yeah, I'll show you that, and then everything else will kind of just be built on from that foundation.
So you're going to want to take your waist measurement and then also take your hip measurement. This is because when you pull your dress on, you want to be able to pull it up over your hips. Then you want to make sure your elastic is snug at the point of your waist measurement, but that it will also reach past your hip measurement. Again, so that it pulls up over your hips, but is also tight at your waist. Then you're just going to sew your elastic together like so. So I've also made a 5-inch gauge swatch in half double crochet, which was 20 stitches, and now we need to figure out how many times those 20 stitches will fit into our hip measurement, which was 42 inches. So we're going to write down 42 inches and divide that by 5 because there were 5 inches in our gauge swatch, so that was 8.4. And then we're going to multiply that by 20 because there were 20 stitches in the swatch. And that's going to come out to 168. Okay, so I'm going to start my chain for my waistband, and due to my calculations, the number that I'm supposed to cast on is 168. I just want to make sure that my waistband is definitely going to fit up past my hips, so I'm just going to round up a little bit, and for reasons you'll see in the future, you want to keep this number divisible by 6. It'll make your life so much easier, so I'm just going to make a chain of 174. And then when this chain is done, make sure that it's all facing the right way here. And then you're going to want to slip stitch into your first stitch to complete the loop. So once you've slip stitched together, you're going to want to chain 1, and then you're going to half double crochet in every stitch around. And you're going to do that for 3 rows. So you want to end up with a loop of 3 rows of half double crochet. Okay, so that's 3 rows completed there. And then now if you look on the ledge here, how you can see the 2 loops of the previous row, your next row you're going to half double crochet again, but you're only going to work into the back loop. This is, we're going to end up working our way back, but we want to be able to have a loop left on top that we can work into in the future. So now you're just going to half double crochet around for 2 more rows. Okay, so as you can see now, we've got the waistband done. So you're going to pick whatever you want to put inside. This is how you would do it if you're using a string. So you're going to have to determine which side is on the outside, and in our case it's going to be the side that has only 2 rows of half double crochet, not the side that has 3. So in the front of your piece, or where the front would be, so opposite of where the seam is, you're just going to insert the 2 ends of your string and tie a little bow so that you can, so it won't fall out and you can use that as your center string. So I'm going to do it with an elastic, but basically the next steps are going to be exactly the same whether you do it with the elastic or with the string. So you're just going to put it on the inside where the seam is here. I think it's just easiest to tie that together, and then it won't move around and you'll know that everything is kind of on an even keel. Okay, so once you've got this part tied together, you're just going to use your stitch markers and you're going to work all the way around, just closing up that seam there, keeping the elastic on the inside. If it's not perfectly lined up, stitch for stitch here, it's not a really big deal. When we close it, you'll line them up. This is just for the purpose of keeping that seam closed with the elastic inside while you work. It makes working much easier. Okay, so once you've got the whole thing kind of close together, you're actually going to start where your little seam is here, and you're going to take your first color of your striping pattern. We're just going to make a little slip knot onto the needle, and then you're just going to insert it through both sides so that you can close up this seam here, and you're just going to single crochet all the way around, going through both sides, the front and the back, and then just single crochet. And you're going to work all the way around to okay, so the edge that, or the row that we're working on right now that closes up this edge, this is basically the first row of your skirt. And as you can see here, there's still live loops on the top, and that's what we're going to work the top part into. So as you can see here, we're about like 12 rows into the skirt. I just wanted to show you this part because it's developed a bit so you can get a better sense of what's going on. As you can see, I've worked a single crochet row, then a half double crochet row, and then a double crochet row, then a single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet. For increases, I've placed 6 stitch markers evenly apart. I started this on the first row of the skirt, but on every single crochet row, you're going to make 2 stitches in each place where the stitch marker is. If you have trouble keeping your color changes aligned properly, I'm just going to show you here how you can start and finish each row where your color change is going to be. We're going to do it for this first row is going to be a single crochet, how you start the row. And then this would be how you end the single crochet row. You're going to switch your color before you do your slip stitch pull through. It'll just have a little bit more of an even color switch. So you're going to end your single crochet row, and that will put you in place to start your next half double crochet row. So it'll be a chain of 2, and then you're just going to work into the first stitch here. Just make sure when you're working that you're always lining up your stitches at the beginning. Sometimes it's easy to put an extra stitch in there or miss a stitch. Just make sure that each row, it kind of shifts over a bit because you're working in the round and not turning your work. But as long as you're just putting one stitch on top of another, you should be fine. So this will end your half double crochet row, and then we're just going to go into starting the double crochet row. So you're just going to work in the start of each row. As you could see there, you work a single crochet to start the chain in the same stitch that you slip stitched. And this is just going to be how you end the double crochet row. So about 50 rows in, I didn't want my skirt to go out as much as before, so I took half of the stitch markers out, and from that point forward I only did 3 increases on the increase rows instead of 6. So to start the top, I split my work into 3 equal parts. I put a stitch marker at the seam at the back so we could keep track of where the back was, and then I worked half of the third out to the sides, and then I put the other 2/3 so there's a stitch marker in the front. That way the front stitch marker is front and center. So you're going to start working into the left hand, or the stitch that is marked on the left hand side with your base color of yarn. And you're just going to single crochet in each of the open loops that are along this edge, and you're just going to work all the way around to the same stitch mark on the other side. When you go past the center, you're going to want to move your stitch mark up because you want to make sure that you know where your center is. That's going to be the bottom of your V-neck. So basically the 2/3 that you're working across here are going to be the front 2 pieces that will cover your chest. So once you've single crocheted all the way across, you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to half double crochet 1, and then you're going to do 2 half double crochet decreases. So because we've divided it into thirds, there is obviously some work that is going to be covering underneath your armpits and in towards your back. So you're going to want to do more decreases on the side here to get the work up more towards your front so that it'll fit nicely under your arms. You're just going to half double crochet across, and then when you are on each side of your center stitch marker, you're going to do a decrease as well, just to keep it a little tighter in the center. If you have a really large chest, you can probably skip that decrease there so that you can keep your chest part longer, but I have a small bust, so I'm going to do a decrease there. And you're going to work to the end, and when you get to 5 stitches from the end of the row, you are going to do 2 half double crochet decreases again, and then 1 half double crochet to finish the row. So you're going to turn your work, and then you are going to repeat this row exactly the same 2 more times. So this is kind of just like a general rule for this part. This is how I made mine, and it generally should fit you, but if you need to use a gauge swatch to figure out how many decreases you actually should be doing at the beginning and end of each row, you can do that as well to customize it to your own fit. Okay, so this row is where we're going to separate the front piece and start our 2 triangles. So you're just going to start this row exactly the same, 2 half double crochet decreases, and then you're going to work along the row. When you get closer to center, you are not going to do decreases. We don't want the angle of decrease in the center part to be quite as steep as the angle of decrease that's coming from around your back. So you're going to continue more decreases on the outside and less on the inside so that you can get a a steeper hill on the outside. So you're going to turn your work, and you're going to half double crochet 1 and then do 1 decrease. You're going to work down this row. When you get to the end of the row, you're also going to do 1 decrease on this row. So basically, as you work up this triangle, when you are ending your row on the outside, you are going to do 1 decrease. When you're starting your row on the outside, you are going to do 2 decreases. And when you are ending your row on the inside, you're not going to do any decreases. And when starting your row on the inside, you are going to do 1 decrease. And then when you are finished, you'll just work this exact same pattern all the way up your the triangle until you get to the peak. You're going to bind off, and then you're going to work on the other side. You're basically just going to do the exact opposite. So you have 2 equal triangles. Okay, so now we're going to add on the strap. So you're going to turn your piece over, and you are going to, still with your base yarn, you're going to insert right into where that center stitch marker is, or if it's gone, you can just put it where the seam was. You are going to work across this bottom row in single crochets. I did a decrease every 5 stitches just so that I didn't have a bunch of extra at the back. When you get to a corner part, you're going to want to do a decrease in that corner just to kind of keep everything neat and tidy there. And then you're just going to work up the side of your front piece here. Okay, when you get to the peak, you are going to want to make a really long chain for your one strap. So this can be anywhere between 150 and 200 stitches, or maybe even more. This will kind of depend on how tall, short, big or small you are. I did 180 stitches. You can kind of test it out to make sure you're on the right track. But yeah, once you get to the end of this chain and you think it's long enough to go over your shoulder and across the back and tie together again, you'll just work back down the chain. You're going to work back down to the front top of the triangle, and then you're just going to work down your V-neck, up the other side, a chain exactly the same size, and down to the center back. So then you'll have 2 straps. Okay, I've already done the left sleeve, and I'm going to show you to do the right. So you can put on your piece and pick a spot in the back where you want your sleeve to end, and put a stitch marker there. And then you're going to need an extra about 5 stitches to sew your piece onto center. So you're just going to count the amount of stitches from that stitch mark to the center. Okay, using the second color of your striping pattern, you're going to make a chain that includes the number of stitches from your back stitch marker to the center plus 5, and then plus 1 for a turning chain. So mine was 76. So that when I come back and work down in single crochets, I basically have a chain with single crochets that are 75. So you're going to want to place stitch markers along your row of single crochet here so you know where to do the increases. I've shown you up here the numbers that I used for where my stitch markers are. The top row is for my left sleeve and the bottom row is for my right sleeve. Your left sleeve and your right sleeve are just going to be the exact same thing but inverse. When I did my increases for my left sleeve, I always placed my stitch marker in the second stitch of the increase, and when I did it on my right side, I always place it in the first stitch of my increase. So you're just going to work this kind of similar to the skirt, but in this case you are going to turn your work when you switch rows, but you'll just change your color at the end of a row and then continue working in this one I did a single crochet for this row and an increase here so you can see how it's done. So this is the right side that I'm working on. So after this increase, I'm going to replace the stitch marker into the first stitch of the increase. On the left hand side, it went into the second stitch of the increase. And that'll just keep everything even on both sides for you. So I also did an increase on every single crochet and every double crochet row for the first 11 rows, and then after that I only did the increase on the single crochet rows. To attach the sleeve, you're just going to line it up with your work. You've got that 5 extra stitches from where the V split off and where your waistband actually starts. You're going to use the first color of your striping pattern, and you're just going to work into, you're going to start 5 rows in, right where your V starts for your top, and then you're just going to single crochet through both pieces and attach it, similar to what you did when you were closing up the waistband. This will be how you do it on the right hand side. On the left hand side, you will have to attach with stitch markers and work from the kind of more of the strappy part towards the bottom, because you still want your working edge to be on the outside. Okay, to sew the bottom edge on, you're going to want to sew it into right above your waistband. You want to make sure that it's the same distance apart on each side, or same distance from center. And then you can just use the strings that are already on here and kind of use them to attach it and hold it in place before you do the sewing. And it'll also kind of like clear them up and get them out of the way. So I kind of started on the edge here, sewed it together, and then after you're done that, you can go through and put all the other knots through. You're going to want to, again, be like right above where the elastic for your waistband is. You're just going to put it through to the other side. You can do that with all of them. Then on the back side, you can use your yarn needle to kind of sew it through another loop and then close it off. You won't see this coming out the front because you have the sleeve covering it, but this will kind of just keep the knot more secure. Finish that all off. Now you're just going to sew those extra 5 stitches in the front that you used to bring it down to the waistband. You're going to sew that together just to clean up that area right there. And then you're just going to sew using black yarn or whatever color you really want. Your base color would be good though, it'll keep it clean, and you're just going to sew along this bottom line to attach the sleeve on the bottom. You'll also want to sew in the ends of your sleeves on the other end, otherwise they'll look pretty ratty. I just didn't include that in the video. So now you're basically finished all the steps to your dress, and you can just keep working rows down the bottom and make it as long as you want. And at this point you can try it on so you'll know. So to put on your dress, you're just going to want to turn it with the front facing the floor, and you're just going to want to crisscross the back. And then you can put your strap string into any hole that is along the side here. And then I just tie a loose bow in it. And then this way you'll be able to just slide it and just slip into it, into that hole. Just step into it and pull the straps over. And once it's on, you can just tighten the straps for the perfect fit.